The blaze forced the resident to run from his home, and a next-door neighbour revealing he was hours before the fire broke out.
So before we go much further, was anyone injured? That's probably we need to
No,
clarify.
thankfully.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about the tenants. You mentioned before that they are habitual smoke detector taker downers. Is that a word?
Yeah, so that can be a word because that's exactly what they were. So
Okay.
you can guarantee every 3 months I would go do their property inspection and their alarm would be down. For no apparent reason other than I suspect that somebody may have been smoking in the bedroom. Somebody has told me this, but I'm going on hearsay. So I suspect that they took that down because Granddad was smoking in the bedroom.
So tell me a little bit about the placement of smoke detectors of the properties. Are they inside the bedrooms or outside the doors?
They're outside the bedroom. So the requirement is you just have to have a smoke alarm within 3 metres of a bedroom. So generally in New Zealand in houses, you'll get a long hallway. There'll be 3 bedrooms that run off the hallway. And because the hallway in that particular property was so long, I had one situated at each end of the hallway. So one at the far end, which is by the 2 bedrooms, and one closer to the lounge end where it covered that end of the house plus the extra bedroom that was there.
And Fiona, you said to me before that your husband's a police officer, but now also he's a fireman. So he's in there doing the. Does he install the smoke detectors? Does he?
He's my jack of all trades. I'm very fortunate that I've married a man that is quite happy to go and do handy bits and pieces. If I had the upper body strength, I could hang a smoke alarm up, but because I'm vertically challenged as well, that's something that I'm not able to do. So yeah, so he'll go and hang them up and test them for me.
So 2 weeks ago, I think a lot of agents over here in Australia would be really surprised that is that just typically in your area or New Zealand as a whole, do you think, that agents are still testing the smoke alarms themselves? Anecdotally.
Yeah, I would be, maybe home-based businesses like me would still be doing it like that. The bigger companies, they may be paying somebody in to come in and do that. Because I'm looking through the post that I did put on Facebook, there's quite a lot of people that were offering their services to come around and do that kind of installment in between tenancies.
So my understanding,
but it's still something that I can do.
Yeah, but my understanding, you were saying before that it's the testing. My understanding is they also they test the audible level, but at the same time they also, for many of them, they have a simulated smoke to test whether it will actually go off in the smoke and also the location. So yeah, I think we're probably a little bit different in the way in which Australia and New Zealand building codes
definitely.
But I think at the end of the day, we've still got the same types of landlords who don't necessarily want to spend money on their investment property, and potentially want to try and make as much out of it as possible. So tell me a little about it was a Thursday about 2 weeks ago. How did you find out about the fire, and what actually happened?
Actually, was it? So we found out, I've got friends that are in the fire brigade, and they rang to tell me that my rental in this particular street, number 3, was on fire.
Yes.
So
you were at home? You were at home?
Yeah, I was at home in my pajamas. It was a pouring down with rain night, and I got a message about my rental house being on fire. So I tracked down the tenant at number 3 and spent 10 minutes on the phone with her, clarifying that it wasn't actually her house that was burning down, it was a house next door.
Sure.
So house next door, I managed to get hold of the tenants there. Little one was playing with one of those barbecue lighters that you can buy at Bunnings. It's got the clicky click switch thing. Went up to Granddad's bedroom, because Granddad is the actual tenant since his wife passed away. Went up to the bedroom and lit the couch on fire in his bedroom. Smoke alarm went off so that everybody in the rest of the house knew what was going on. By the time the tenant's daughter ran up to the bedroom, it took, I think, 3 minutes and the whole house was gone.
So how old's your sort of little fella? How old's little?
2.
So a 2-year-old had an igniter. Aren't
Yeah.
they supposed to be childproof?
Wow.
I can't
Kids
get
are pretty clever these
a
days.
barbecue lit with them. So how does a 2-year-old do? So the 2-year-old's
Oh, I don't know.
so they've gone upstairs. The 2-year-old's gone upstairs and ignited the couch.
Yep, not at the couch. And by the time the alarm had actually gone off, and the tenant's daughter went up to have a look, it had caught onto the curtains, and yeah, by then they had to run down the other end of the house and get everybody out.
So before we go much further, was anyone injured? That's probably we need to
No,
clarify.
thankfully. Okay. My worst nightmare was one having a fire, but the worst thing would be having somebody injured, and they were checked out by the ambos and they were fine.
Sure. Okay. So tell me a little about this family, the people. So they've been in the property for a while?
Yep, they've been in the property since 2014, and the original tenant, she passed away 2 years ago, so her husband took on the tenancy. So yeah, just been there for 6 years.
Yeah. So it's a grandparents,
yep,
next generation,
grandfather,
and then a grandchild, so little kids as well.
Yep, little kids as well. Granddad, I think Granddad and maybe one of the daughters were living there, but I mean, it's in New Zealand you have Māori families and they're always around helping each other. So that particular night, Granddad had gone to archery because that's what he does on a Thursday night. Takes 2 of the grandchildren, goes to archery, then they go home. The others pop around home and sort out dinner for him. So when he gets home, he's all, fed and watered.
Sure. Sounds like a horse. Fed and watered.
Definitely.
So you're saying 3 minutes for the house to go from one bedroom to fully. Would you suggest that there's probably combustible material in the house, or that sounds really quick?
Yep.
I'm not a fireman, but that's
no. The outside of the property's got it's like a plastic coating on it.
Oh wow!
And I believe that's what actually fueled the fire. When I send you through a couple of pictures later, you'll see another particular picture.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to see what it's made out of, and you can see. I mean, all but the front of the house, a little bit of the front of the house is absolutely gone. And you'll be able to see that it's kind of like this plasticky material that looks like it's just helped fuel the fire.
Have you are you aware of what our issues are over here in Australia, or more importantly Victoria, with the combustible cladding?
No.
So I'll share with you just probably a little bit like maybe the same. A lot of the high-rise apartments have got this. It's an aluka bond on the outside, so it's like a metal sheeting on the outside, and then another insulation on the inside. But there's a foam film in between, so that it's quite lightweight, and it actually meets the building codes. So buildings, and it was quite, it was prolific. Builders were using it all over the place. It was coming out of China, but it met the building code. So that's the first thing to say. And then there was an apartment block where there was some fake grass on the balcony, a lot of rubbish. Tenants were out there smoking. The balcony went up, and it went straight up the side of the building, and it had 8 or 9 floors.
Wow.
And as a result of that, we've had probably, I would say now, 3 or 4 years worth of investigations with the fire brigade going around and checking all these buildings that are completely encompassed with the this fire, effectively polystyrene. Yeah. It's effectively just foam. It will just go up like that. So now there's disputes between builders and owners as to who's responsible to pay for this, because it met the building code. Now it doesn't. People are getting bills. Owners corporations, apartment blocks are getting a bill for $1 and $2 million to pull all the outside off and rebuild it. So sounds like this was something that's similar to that. Okay, so they've been there for a while. The kids, the little fella's gone in, lit the bedroom, lit the couch up. It's caught onto the curtains, and then the house is gone.
Yep.
Single story, double story?
Single story home.
Single story. Okay, and they all ran, did they? Because the smoke detector went off.
Yeah, shock horror. The smoke detector was up, so I was absolutely stoked because, like I said, they're prolific at pulling their smoke alarms down. So every 3 months, I'd be lecturing them. You know what's going to happen one day if this house catches on fire. you're not going to know, and then everybody's going to die. I
Yeah.
put it bluntly. Yeah, so thankfully that smoke detector went off.
And what was their feedback then, Fiona, when you would say that to them? Did they have an apathetic approach, which was it'll never happen to me?
Shrug your shoulders. Oh, it's all right. It won't happen to us. I was like, yeah, that's what we all say until it actually happens to us.
What a shame. And
That is a shame.
within a couple of minutes, the house was just burnt. It's burnt to the ground, isn't it? The house.
Yep, burnt to the ground. Well, it was actually still standing in those pictures, but I imagine it's probably been pulled down now. I haven't had a look lately.
Sure. And what about all the tenants' possessions? Completely ruined?
Gone. Completely ruined, and they had no household insurance.
Is that something which you offer over there? Do you offer tenants
It's
insurance?
something that I strongly encourage my tenants to do, and saying that just before we went into our level 4 lockdown, I had engaged a guy that my husband and I went to school with, who's an insurance broker.
Yeah.
Gave all the tenants' phone numbers, and quite a few of my tenants took up the offer of getting contents insurance, which is really, really good. Unfortunately, these tenants didn't. But I mean, everyone's priorities are different as to what they can afford and what they need.
So we'll talk about the tenants and what their outcome was a little bit later. But so there's what about the owner? Please tell me the owner had insurance.
He did have insurance.
Yeah.
If I had to tell any owner that their house had burnt down, I've known this guy since I started my business back in 2006, and a really neat, laid-back guy. I mean, I didn't want to tell anybody that their house had burnt down, but if I had a choice of which owner I'd tell, he was pragmatic. It's like, oh, well, it's happened. It was an accident, regardless of whether your kid should have been playing with that lighter or not. It was just, it's happened. It's like, oh, this is what we're going to need to do. Are the tenants okay? What's our next step?
Yeah. And where did the tenants spend that night?
I have got other relations that rent from me, from the same family, so they've just gone and kind of palmed themselves out through each of the family.
Perfect. We might wrap it up from here now, and I guess what the message that you would say to all owners would be what, Fiona? What's your one message that you would suggest for all landlords to do?
You need to make sure your smoke alarms are working, and make sure that your property managers are doing their job properly. I'm contracted to do 3 monthly inspections. Yes, that means that the smoke alarms are only getting checked every 3 months. I mean, at some stage, tenants need to take responsibility for checking those smoke alarms as well, because it's when does the responsibility end with me and start with them.
Yeah.
But you just need to make sure that you're getting those smoke alarms checked.
Well, for all the Australian agents, Fiona's told us 2 things that are startling. The first one is she's still using a stick to do the smoke detector inspections, but more importantly, 3-month inspections. Over here, we can't do them for less than 6, which is not too bad. So Fiona, thank you very much for your time, and we'll hear more about this story later. Thanks, Fiona.
Awesome, thank you.